You're live. Let's see. Give everybody a couple minutes to join, I think. Oh, there we go. Numbers are coming up.
Sounds good. All right, kick this off in 1 minute.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
All right. Give everyone time to go get their coffee.
How many cups are you on this morning, Heidi? That's what I want to know.
Number 3.
Number 3, holy moly, you must be young.
Had a birthday this week, a COVID birth, self-isolation birthday. It was entertaining.
I'd probably fall over if I had 3 cups of coffee.
All right. Well, let's get going. Hi, everybody. My name is Heidi Burns. Welcome to the Virtual Ag Innovation Exchange brought to you by HarvestPort. I'll be your co-host today along with Isa Kiraz. We're excited to have so many of you join. So first, before I jump in, a little bit about myself. I've been with HarvestPort for a little over about 2.5 years as our head of revenue. And during that time, kind of one of the kind of key things that we brought to market was our innovation hub. And our mission here and at HarvestPort in general has been to connect a lot of the stakeholders in the agricultural supply chain. And as part of that, we often heard that some of these ag technology companies and peers in the space were wanting to get in front of kind of our network of growers. And we saw an opportunity to really create kind of rich content and storytelling around these new and novel solutions that were being brought to market. So Esau's going to dive in a little bit about the history of this program and how it's evolved over the past 2 years. But today we wanted to bring a lot of this content live to you at this first ever virtual Ag Innovation Exchange event. So I'm coming to you live from my home office in Austin, Texas. I've got my Yeti with my coffee, of course, as anyone should, to keep it cold here down in Texas. Let me go over quickly here what we are going to cover, and then we'll get into a little bit of housekeeping. So what to expect after we, of course, welcome you guys and let you know what we're going to cover here in the next hour or two. We're going to dive into these innovator ideas exchange is what we're calling it. So we're excited to showcase 5 innovators here today. I'll highlight who those are here in a moment, showing a quick video about the value that they're bringing, and then we'll engage in some live Q&A. Then we're going to dive into a group panelist discussion where all of our innovators online today are going to join, and we're going to talk through just some other kind of questions from the audience and other kind of top of mind things that we've been noticing in the marketplace, and of course how it relates to kind of the new normal that we're in right now and the business and opportunities and things like that. And then finally, I'll highlight a couple kind of quick resources around COVID that we've been eyeing. And finally, we want to share with you some exciting news about what's next with HarvestPort's Innovation Hub. So hopefully you guys can join us for the next likely hour to an hour and a half of great conversation. We'll be recording this event for anybody that jumps on late or needs to jump off early. So a little bit of housekeeping. There's a chat feature that you can see. So if you have questions, we definitely want you all to participate. So submit your questions via the chat and we'll be monitoring that. You can submit it directly to all panelists or to all panelists and attendees. I personally find it more fun when I'm on these things to just see how, what's top of mind for everybody. So I like to share things directly with everyone on the call. So we'll be looking at that and then kind of interjecting with your questions as we go along. If there's certain questions that come up that we don't get to because of time, for example, those will be shared with the panelists and we'll get those answered after this session. Let's see, what else do I need to cover? I think that is mainly it for me. I'm going to turn it over to Isa and he's going to do a quick introduction for him.
Hey, as Heidi mentioned, my name is Esau Quiroz. I am a special projects manager here on the HarvestPort team. I've also been on the team for a little over 2.5 years. As a member of the team, I've really had an opportunity to participate in the development of two very exciting programs. The first one being HarvestPort Deals, which was in many ways the foundation for the Innovation Hub, and I'll touch on that briefly right now. Yeah, so HarvestPort Deals, we launched about 2 years ago. Really the goal around that program was to allow vendors, product manufacturers, service providers to give them an opportunity to offer growers in our network a time-sensitive deal that would be attractive for all growers, whether they be small, medium, or large sized. And what we noticed from that program was that when we released our weekly deals, we got a whole lot of engagement with the marketing campaigns. People are really engaged. They're really excited about seeing an opportunity to save money on products that they might be able to use on their farm. But what we noticed was that product requests were much higher for products that were commonly used, such as compost or gypsum or glyphosate, something that the growers completely understand already. There's no education that needs to be done. They see a discount on it and they're willing to pull the trigger and make an order. So we started to have some interviews with growers and to try to understand, is it that you're not interested in the other products, or what kind of is the reason why you're not willing to place an order and try these products out? And what we found was that the products that they weren't willing to try out were products that were either brand new to the market or innovative, and they just didn't really understand what the value was that they were bringing to their farm. So what we worked on with a number of growers was to develop, okay, what kind of information could we bring you that might make you more willing to try these products on your farm? And what we came to find was that they wanted to know the problem that the product solves. They want to know how the product solves that problem, and they want to hear from other growers. They want to hear, okay, I want to hear from other growers, and I want to see evidence to back up the claims that this company is making. So we took that feedback and we developed the Innovation Hub, which is an opportunity for products to be showcased on the hub. We build a profile for them that kind of goes into the history of their company. We build a blog for them that goes into explaining the problem that they solve, and also explaining why that problem exists and why some of the solutions out there on the market are just not meeting the needs of growers with that problem. Then we follow that up with the webinar where we go into more detail on how the product actually goes about solving that problem. And then we also follow that up with customer testimonials that give growers an opportunity to hear from their peers on how this product has worked on their farm. And before a product is invited to be a part of the Innovation Hub, we go through a bit of a vetting process. So we want to understand the problem that they're solving, make sure it's a problem that is actually relevant to growers, and then also ask to speak to growers who have used the product already, and also look at case studies and any field trials that they have to back up the claims that they're making about the effectiveness of that product. So really excited about that. At the end of this webinar, or at the end of this event, we will be giving you an update on where the Innovation Hub is going, what the next step is going to be for the program. We're really excited about where it's going and how we're going to continue to grow and teach growers and educate growers on the solutions available to them for their farm. So before we move into the panel discussion and learn a little bit about each of the individual panelists and their company that's on today, I want to quickly kick it off with a few icebreakers. Want to give you an opportunity to just be engaged. We want you to engage throughout the conversation. So we want to kick briefly, you'll see a couple of polls that pop up. So we'd ask for you to engage and answer them. They're going to be fun. We want to know, first of all, how long you've been in quarantine. Is it your first week? Is it your second week? We want to just kick it off real quickly and have some fun there. So you'll see that poll. You should be seeing that poll now pop up on your screen. If you can quickly engage with that, be excited about that.
Thanks, Isa. I'm curious to see where everybody's at in terms of staying at home, or if we've got a lot of essential workers on this call.
Yeah, definitely excited about that. And we'll have a couple other poll questions right now. We'll give you a couple more seconds to answer this one. We just want to know if you're a grower or if you are you're a part of a company that may want to be a part of the Innovation Hub or learn more about that, or if you're just if you're just an ag industry stakeholder. And then we also just want to know what kind of milk you're using today for your coffee. We know it's a great way to kick off your day, and we just want to have some fun there and see what kind of milk you're using today. So you should be seeing the second poll question coming up on your screen now. So if you can just briefly take a minute to answer it, and then we'll get going with, we'll move on to the panelists and hear about their companies and learn a little bit more about the benefit that they bring to your farm.
Now, Lisa, I'm sure people are curious to know how long we've all been working from home, or how people like their coffee. Yeah. You gonna be able to share that with everybody?
Yeah, I can definitely share that right now after we complete this next poll, and give everybody an opportunity to see what their responses are.
You know, there's no option for black coffee there, Esau. I'm a little disappointed.
Well, the last one is a little bit of that. I like it just the way it's served.
Okay.
I'll join that team of the black coffee.
All righty, Ree. That's right.
We're doing the tea.
Hoorah.
So there we go. There's responses for this for the milk question. Seems like the majority are either taking it black or using plain old milk.
And everyone should have received a Starbucks e-card in their email inbox if you registered before today.
So I want to kick it back over to Heidi to start to kick off the next portion of our event today. So we can learn a little bit more about the companies that we have on today. Thanks,
Esau. All right, we've got a great lineup of content, and we're hopefully going to continue, these events and bring you more innovators. Excited to see these folks jump in head first and be part of this virtual ag innovation exchange. So let me introduce who these folks are. You'll hear from them as we go through each of the different sections, but I just am going to highlight who we've got on the call or on the video today. We've got John Trevini from Aerobotics, from NDRIP, Yuri Sejev, from Perfect Blend, Justin Levins, from Novihum, Cord Nunez, and then from HarvestPort, Brian Dawson. All right. So now rolling into our innovator showcase, essentially. We're going to dive in first with Aerobotics. This is a company that we've really respected and seen kind of evolve over the past few years. I imagine many of you have already heard about them, but for those that haven't, this is your chance to get to know them. Let's let it roll.
Often we think of the future as something far away, distant, forever around the corner, until it catches up to us. We can't predict the future, but we can prepare for it. Imagine you could determine if a single tree or an entire field was pest-ridden, diseased, or in need of attention from the touch of a screen. What would you do today to fix tomorrow if you knew how? Imagine if an application automatically planned a scout route for a drone to assess potential threats in your field and diagnose the pest or disease causing stress. all without leaving your home. Imagine a tomorrow free of yesterday's limitations. The truth is, you don't have to imagine, because with Aerobotics' new innovations, the future is within your grasp. Today brings a new dawn. Tomorrow is now.
All right. Good morning. Good afternoon, John. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Tugs at my heartstrings every time.
I know it sure does. That you guys really landed on, quite the ensemble of music in the background.
Yeah, totally.
It's soothing. And so, where are you coming to us from today?
I'm actually in Berkeley, California. So I moved out here a number of years ago now. It's been like 7 years, I guess. I'm sitting here in the little back. It used to be a garage. Our house was built in 1916, so we got everything's been around for a while. So I'm stuck in the back here with my 14-year-old right over here, and 12-year-old running around somewhere else as well. So it's interesting, I'm sure, just like everybody else is right now.
For sure. Lots of new variables introduced into the workplace.
For sure.
I passed on my dog for a couple hours, so there wouldn't be any interruptions, because that one I realized is needy. But enough about that. Let's jump in. I really wanted to hear directly from you on kind of the value that Aerobotics brings to the marketplace, really who your target kind of customer is, and if you can share just in your own words more details around the benefits of your solution for the audience.
Yeah, sure. I mean, at a super high level and as quickly as possible to not consume a ton of time here. What we really are is we're built for growers, packers, and shippers to be more efficient in the entire production cycle of analyzing a piece of property, typically a tree orchard, all the way to taking interventions throughout the course of a season. And so what we're able to do is collect a lot of satellite data. We have a third-party network of pilots who fly drones with RGB and multispectral cameras that are calibrated using incident light sensors that measure the available sunlight. We also use reflectance panels to really calibrate the multispectral data that we have. We segment individual trees across an orchard, and then we create analytics using the indices from the multispectral camera, so NDVI or NDRE, and we assign those index values to individually segmented trees. And then once we have the segmentation of the trees, we're able to create scouting routes across stressed areas of orchards and then push that to a mobile device where a field checker or a scout can go out and actually take pictures of the stressed parts of the orchard, take some notes, and then roll that up into interventions that happen throughout the course of the season. So that's really the kind of end-to-end workflow that we use.
Okay, that's definitely super helpful. I know there's a lot of kind of data management that goes into that, with a really interesting combination with the servicing by kind of these third-party drone providers. I guess with that question that kind of often has come up that we've maybe heard about your business is, is this a replacement or substitute for anything else? What part of the budget gets reallocated when you guys are, talking to potential customers?
Yeah, so, it is, I would say that typically the way people are doing this is if they're counting trees, they have their scouts walking through with a clicker and counting trees. If they're counting trees at all, most of the measurement that we see is either on pen and paper or Excel sheets or something like that. But very few people really trust the data that they collect. Even if you ask somebody who owns a farm and say, hey, how does the data look that you get from the people that you send out into the field, whether that's, looking for stressed areas or looking, counting pest traps or whatever. And in general, they say, if I send 3 different people out into the field, I'm going to get 3 different answers back. And so really what the core value prop to what we do is create an independent, measurable, calibrated way of validating the health and stress across an orchard, and then enabling growers, packers, and shippers to take action based upon that variability across the orchard. And so it's really trying to reduce the error rate that is typically out in the orchards that we see today, and create a trusted source of measurements that we can then start looking at change over time.
Okay, great. That's definitely helpful to hear kind of that detail. Along those same lines then, just building off of like the measurable data that you have, how are you measuring kind of the ROI? What should sort of these organizations expect if they were to engage with Aerobotics? It may vary.
Yeah, it does vary. It varies quite a bit on crop type and things like that. We're typically in specialty crops, permanent crops like nuts and citrus. You know, the ROI, like we said, the ROI varies, but you talk to somebody who, for example, we work with some large chemical companies who are measuring the response rate across specific trees within a block to their inputs, to their biological inputs. And the value to somebody like that who's basically using our data, our calibrated data, to measure the response of their commercial product that improves the health of an orchard, the value to them and the ROI for a few dollars an acre to measure using us has an incredible ROI for what they're doing in terms of essentially validating the efficacy of their products. Now, somebody who's growing corn in Iowa is going to have a harder time finding an ROI most likely at this point, and we're not really tailored for those kind of larger row crops. We can work in regions and kind of show stressed regions, but the key value and the key return on investment where that we see with customers is really being able to drill all the way down to a per tree level, and then actually bring that up into regions and zones that we can then take action on. And so in the permanent crop industry, we're finding that the ROI doesn't really become too much of a conversation point, because the metrics and the trust that they have in that data right now is not where it is when we have kind of this third-party validated measurable data on an orchard.
Gotcha. Okay. I wanted to pause for a second and see, Esau, if there's any questions yet coming in from the audience for Aerobotics.
Yeah, so actually we have two questions. The first one, John, could you tell us what the most common reason is why farmers are not currently buying your solution yet?
I always hate to say to be honest, because it implies that I'm not always honest, but the reason that people are using us right now is typically documentation of a property. And so somebody will come to us and say, hey, listen, my father, I grew up here, my father grew up here, his father grew up here, we've been here for 4 generations. We know everything there is about this property that there is to know, period, hands down. We'll come in, we'll do a demo, we'll show them some data, and grandpa will chime in and say, I told you the irrigation pressure was off on that block. And I told you that 2 months ago, and we still haven't fixed it. And you can see it prevalent across that block because it's a very, very clear line of vegetative health. And so having that documentation in these kind of a little bit younger generations, like, kind of my generation and on, people who trust the numbers and trust the data are really where we're seeing this kind of pickup. The second component of that, just very, very briefly, is in our biggest focus is education. We're coming from South Africa. We've been doing this for 5-6 years now in South Africa and other parts of the world, and people just don't know about us here in the States, and especially here in California. We are a very heavily generational farming area here in the Central Valley, and it just takes time to build trust and educate growers, packers, and shippers that we actually can do what we say we can do, and that the results are accurate and measurable. So it's really that kind of 2 components of education and that generational aspect for wanting tangible data in your hands.
Thank you for that, John. The other question that came through is more of a concern. Follow through with startups is not typically very good. They typically want to sell and move on. How do you address that?
That's actually a great question. You know, fortunately or unfortunately, I've kind of seen that in the past. I came from, when I moved out to Berkeley, I worked for a company called 3D Robotics. We were kind of, you know, competing with DJI, the large Chinese drone company, early on, 2013 or so. And, you know, I would say from a startup perspective, that is a very common comment. What I would say in specific regards to Aerobotics is that because we have been around for so long in other parts of the world, we have 100 people in South Africa that do nothing but work on Aerobotics. It's not like we're like a 10-person company that's just pulling every string possible to keep the wheels on the bus. We have an organization, it's well established, people have their roles, people have their lanes that they stay in, and our number one focus is customer satisfaction. And so we have been around. We're not, you know, your typical kind of like fledgling startup coming out of Silicon Valley. We are coming from Cape Town, South Africa. We've been doing this for 5 or 6 years now, and you know, we're going nowhere.
Awesome.
All right, thanks, John. Thanks, Esau, for those audience questions. One last one for you.
Thanks.
Going to combine a couple of these here, but what's the best way for any listeners to get in touch with your organization? Yeah. And is there any type of deal or offer that you want to mention if relevant?
Oh yeah, I mean, if you just go to aerobotics.com, aerobotics.com, you'll be able to sign up. We provide free satellite data, and it's a very easy sign up process to be able to add your farm. And then we'll give you 4 years of historical satellite data from an NDVI index as well as a moisture index perspective. That's all free. So you can go there and sign up and add your farm. My email address is John, John, @aerobotics.com. And I'm happy to answer any questions that come up after this. If you come to us and you're ready to do a deal and want to go fly some acres, we're happy to do 10% off for anybody who's on the HarvestPort call here today. So ready to rock.
All right, fantastic. We'll share out all this contact information, by the way, with a follow-up email after the event. So in case you didn't capture that, that'll all come in your inbox. All right, appreciate it, John. Thanks for the update on Aerobotics, and we'll chat with you with the group panel in a little bit. Now moving on to NDRIP. Play this video.
Introducing NDRIP, the ultimate alternative to flooding. Easy to install, NDRIP is a micro irrigation system powered by gravity only. No pumps or filters are needed. How does it work? Just collect the field data required to fill in our form. We will design a plan tailored to your fields, enabling smooth conversion to the NDRIP system. Installation is simple. All you need is to follow the steps in our user guide. Laying out laterals according to our instructions. Connecting the laterals to the manifold. Water from your source, canal or well, flows to the tank. Only minimal pressure is required. Your job is made much easier. Plants get precise amounts of water with just the right amount of fertilizer. Dirt won't cause clogging, as our innovative dripper design allows water to flow smoothly through, no matter what. Savings on water are huge. Most flood-related issues are gone. And the best part is, conversion costs are recouped by the end of the first season. NDRIP is also 100% recyclable and easy to collect and transport when the growing period ends, leaving your fields ready for next season. So why flood when you can NDRIP? Contact us today.
All right, so can I have Yuri join us? Just want to quickly ask you a couple of follow-up questions to that. Yeah, if you can just unmute for us and join us here. Where are you joining us from today, Yuri?
Well, as you can see from the only non-decorated room in my house in Oak Park, California, I got lucky. I got the clear walls. Yeah, we have a beautiful day here in Southern California, and pretty much our operation in the US is generated here from Southern California.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. Wanted to quickly get started with giving you an opportunity to kind of elaborate. Why would a grower want to switch from flood irrigation to end-drip? Could you elaborate on the benefit there a little bit?
Okay, part of the conversion that needed in the market is to do with with our past. Unfortunately for us, in the past 5,000 years, the furrow or flood irrigation systems are ruling the world. Okay, unfortunately, we cannot afford that no more. The waste of water. And there's need for an alternative. There's need for a more sustainability in the market. And the equation we all know or all familiar with is that precise irrigation is expensive. And that's pretty much what end-drip changed. We remove the needs of the most expensive component out of the system, which are the pressurized base filters and the energy, the pumps. So pretty much you get all the benefit of precise irrigation without the expensive components. And that will allow you pretty much to use the same infrastructure at the field with the flood irrigation by applying our system and utilizing, like the clip says, zero pressure to irrigate with a drip system, precise irrigation, sustainability. And that's pretty much where the benefits are, that the pressure that's coming from all, I will say from all sector, whether it's the state, municipal, all that, to start, changing the water scenario as we know it. This pressure will increase on the grower side, and to replace their system and start, be more efficient with their water use. So we believe that we do have the answer for, or I will say the alternative, in between the precise expensive irrigation to the flood irrigation system.
Thank you. Yuri, now, if a grower is looking to switch over, one, how long would it take them to completely switch over to your system? And two, how long would it take them to start seeing an ROI on their investment?
As far as switching to end-drip, the question once again is always the acreage. How long it's going to take you. The question whether you do a 50-acre field or you're converting a 1,500-acre farm from flood to end-drip. Time-wise, that can take over, a small field, 50 to 400 acre, I will say. We can do it probably within a few weeks. Converting a complete farm, that can take some more time, because the grower always chasing the season, and we might not gonna have all the time available for us to convert the farm right away. This installation process, if you take the filters and pump out of the equation, the installation process is identical to the alternative that we have in the market to deploy tape, which usually goes around anywhere, depends on the system, anywhere between 10 to 15 acres a day. That's maybe will give a little bit more more indication about the time. As far as the ROI on a field crop, we can see the ROI within the first season. The grower will get pretty much his return within the first season on field crop. On trees, it's might going to be different, because whether you go to young trees or older orchard, obviously that can change a bit. So 1 year, I will say, sorry, 1 season, not 1 year, 1 season to recoup your ROI.
Thank you, Yuri. So we have a question from the audience. Dan says, I see all of your installs have a plastic tote connected before the lay flat hose. What is the purpose of the tote?
The purpose of that tote, actually there's two main purposes. One is to one is actually to assist with fertigation throughout the season, the irrigation season. You can fertigate with our system, which will potentially save even more money on the grower end. And the second purpose is pretty much to regulate the pressure in the system. We do have a float mechanism inside that tote that will regulate the pressure at 20 inches high, and that's the number that we've seen at less than 1 psi. Those are the two major purpose of that water. We call it the water tank.
Now we got another question from the audience from Alberto. Changing from flood to drip has to be done in different stages to allow the root system to adapt. How long is that period? And Alberto is he has fruit orchards.
Well, that's a good question, and probably not for me to answer professionally from an agronomy standpoint of view. The adoption as far as the crop, the question is regarding the adoption of the root zone of the crop to the new irrigation system?
Yeah, how long does it take it to adapt?
Well, I'm not sure I have the right answer for that question from the agronomy standpoint of view once again. But then again, we are, in the end of the day, we're irrigating the crop. And obviously, when you do a precise irrigation, the volume of water going into the soil is way smaller than just flooding the field. So I will say that probably by a longer irrigation cycle, you pretty much keep the water penetrating through into the root zone, but in more precise ways. So I'm not sure if that will answer the question, but I will be more than happy to elaborate more with more agronomy overview of that question. If I can actually, once again, if I can get that question to my email, I definitely will be more than happy to address it with the right people.
Okay, yeah, we can definitely make that happen. One last question for you. Is there anything that you're currently offering to growers, any kind of special deals currently? And also, what's the best way for growers to get in touch with you?
Well, the best way for growers to get in touch with us is pretty much just go straight through our website, ndrip.com. That will pretty much direct you anywhere. I mean, obviously my direct line or my email, which I'm pretty sure, Heidi, you guys can share it later on with everybody. But that will be pretty much through our website will be the easiest and the fastest way to contact us. As far as promotions, we always under promotions. Currently with the COVID-19 and everything that happened, we will work with everybody individually. We'll tailor-made his plan, his design, and we're gonna pretty much try to tailor-made the financial deal with him to his needs and understanding the difficult time ahead of us and working with everybody. So to say an exact number, no, we don't have, but we definitely have a bucket full of deals for any early adopter that will assist us with the logistic prior to the season and not just come at the last minute before everything need to change. So we do have that available, and I will urge everybody just to to take a shot at us and see how good it can get.
Awesome. Thank you, Yuri. We'll be sending Yuri's information over in the follow-up email, so you'll be able to get directly in contact with him then. So I want to kick it back over to Heidi. We have Perfect Blend Organics up next.
All right, thanks, Esau. Let me just cue up this video, and then we'll bring Justin into the mix.
As we're planting these really shallow rooted crops, we need instant soluble nutrition at the root level. And it's really, really important that that soluble nutrition, and especially nitrogen, is not being robbed by the soil biology. And what I'm talking about is what's referred to as nitrogen immobilization. See, what happens is if the organic matter which is applied to your soil doesn't have a soluble nature and it's not readily plant available, the biology spends a lot of time working over those insoluble lignates. And as the biology requires nitrogen in the system, just like the biology in our systems require nitrogen and amino acids, they've got a really complex diet. And what happens is, if you can complex that diet to match what the biological requirement is, they will instantly respond with amino acid nitrogens and ammoniacal nitrogens and nitrate nitrogens, and just those portions that the crop is desiring. The agronomy world, we're still trying to figure out exactly what the nitrogen cycle means. We were all taught one thing in school 20 years ago, but it seems like there is, if you can really focus on biology, the biology will tend to regulate the nitrogen itself. That's exactly what we set out in doing when we designed the Perfect Blend. It's from high calcium layer chicken manure. And we know that layer chicken manure is the best manure because it's got a calcium rating between 7 and 12%.
All right, so we just paused the video there and wanted to bring Justin Levins in from Perfect Blend. Hi, Justin, how are you?
Hey, doing great, Heidi. Thanks for having us on board.
Yeah, I know there's a lot more content in that narrative, but that was a good kind of cue up. We're excited to have someone on the line that's just focused purely on organics. So, before we dive in, just if you could share, where are you coming to us from today?
So yeah, I'm out here in Twin Falls, Idaho. My wife and I have been vagabonds. I've moved her 16 times, I believe, in just as many years. But I grew up in Southern California. Our family farms citrus and avocados in Monterey and Ventura County commercially. And I've wanted to be in the organic thing for about 25 years. I wanted my dad to convert our farm to organics, and he and I weren't on the same page, so I'd sort of drifted away. But we're now using our organic fertilizers on the commercial operation, and as well in organic systems. And it's a product that we put down anywhere from 500 to 1,000 pounds an acre as a biological inoculum in a conventional system, to as high as a ton or a ton and a half to 2 tons per acre in vegetables. And we've been doing it for 22 years as a company. We've got a nationwide business. I deal quite a bit with the Amish in Pennsylvania, and everything to the Florida blueberry growers up to Michigan and all the way across down in the desert. So it's been a really fun run for the last 10 years.
It sounds like it. You've definitely developed an expertise in this space. I guess for folks that are new to your blend, really what types of organic growers gravitate towards it, and what is it typically a replacement or a substitute from? Just sort of at a higher level here, and then we can get in more into the weeds. How are you thinking about, introducing this to the right customer, or how are the right customers finding you, and what is the kind of, how quickly do they see results generally?
Yeah, so generally our typical customer is someone who's focused on either regenerative ag and commercial, spray farming, and they're trying to move away from the sprays and the reliance on the inputs, on the pesticide, herbicide, fungicide, and they're really focused on soil health. And so I've got customers that, will typically use compost on a conventional system. And what we find is the salts get really high when you put, more than 5 tons of compost per acre. Your pH starts getting really ugly. Compost will usually be between 8.5 and 10 on the pH scale. My product is about 4.5 to 6 pH, so we've got a real low pH range. And the other thing is calcium availability is pretty low in most of the compost programs. Coming from dairy, green waste, it doesn't really matter what it is. So the reason our calcium availability is so high has to do with the fact that what happens is when you feed a chicken oyster shell, that calcium carbonate goes through the gut of the bird and it's acidified into the gut. So when it comes out, it's a homogeneous, super available calcium. We might have a 95 to 100% utilization out of every pound that goes down. And so I've got agronomy guys in Portland. If you don't know Apical, you need to. Midwest, we've got International Ag Labs. And we really see in the first season, not just a response at the harvest bin, but agronomically at the soil level, and then at the sap analysis level, the growers are really seeing a difference year one. We've got independent data with Helena Chemical and the USDA and the universities. 22 years worth of data as a replacement for compost, as an addendum to compost at seeding, like we're going through now. A lot of growers will put 200 to 500 pounds right in touch with the corn seed or the wheat or the beans. And then in organics, it's more of a kind of a one-trick pony. That's pretty much all they use in an organic system.
Okay, that's super helpful. I think you touched on it sort of briefly there, but it sounds like sort of measuring the soil health is a key piece of sort of the ROI that you're providing. And I mean, it's like, I know that there's that term's, thrown around in a much valid way a lot these days, especially with the term regenerative agriculture that you highlighted. Is that really where kind of you guys you've been in that space for now a decade? I'm curious, just because this is really peaked, in my opinion, in the past year, like if you're seeing an uptake of interest because of that, positioning and your expertise in regenerative and soil health, and how you guys are kind of looking out at the future of,
Yeah, well, frankly, Heidi, I think the heyday in organics was 15 years ago.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And so what's happening now is it's coming down to the price of the product at the consumer level. I mean, we've got millennials, 50% of millennials want food that's got more nutrient dense, antioxidant complexity, et cetera. And so I'm actually part of a working thinking tank where we're putting together a means to really just grow food that's better for us, whether it's organic or conventional, and then let the buyer decide. We're actually working on a device, and one of you tech guys, part of this group or online, can help us. An infrared device where we can literally test the produce in the store to see, what are the spray residues? What's the bricks? The technology's out there. Getting it to market is another story, and getting it palatable, in a $50 device we can all carry in our handbags. But as a company, regenerative ag and biologicals, there's a lot of cliche things there. I mean, if you look at Chris's operation there in Southern Oregon, he really has developed sustainability. I mean, we started out at a ton per acre on his soil, and there's hundreds of growers like him that are doing this with our product. And then over a 4 or 5 year period of time, he's only using 500 to 600 pounds an acre of our fertilizer. So, regenerative ag really has to do with spending less money over time. And if we can't do that with our customers, then we need to find a new job. And I think that's where a lot of us are excited with the technologies we have.
Great, thank you. Isa, I wanted to see, are there any questions from the audience?
Yeah, we actually received one in here. Do you see synergies of your high calcium with humic acid products, specifically in heavy soils?
That's a great question. We're just starting to look at the humics. I mean, we're starting to blend in some humics and fulvics into our product from providers out of Florida. We're also looking at a liquid technology. Our company actually has 17 organic registered dry products. And then we've got a liquid product that is pure ammonium with an OMRI certificate. It's a 600, 95% ammonium. The ammonium sort of sells itself because every grower wants instant available ammonium. And so, I mean, we can go through 1 million gallons of that in one phone call. The problem is where do the humates and where do these other things come in? My feeling with humates is they're a part of the puzzle. I look at humates as something where it's creating habitat for biology. And actually in heavy soils, I don't see really as much of a need for them as I do in lighter textured, sandier soils. More airspace, less cation exchange capacity. So yeah, the perfect blend, I mean, is it something we should add to our product? Negligibly, in my opinion, in a tighter, heavy clay soil. If clay soils need anything, they need more available calcium.
Awesome. Thank you. There is one more question. Could you compare how does your product differ from those coming from, say, True Organics?
Yeah, that's a great question. The calcium to sodium ratio, I'm going to go back to it again. We're really favorable, as high as 10x across the board, favorable in calcium. Solubility is the other thing. I mean, our process, if you watch the rest of the Vimeo or go to YouTube, it's got a soluble mechanical process we put it through. So it'll run as high as 65% water soluble. You can top dress the product. It's really fine. It's a micro prill. Whereas their products are pelleted and they're simply just manure that they put through a California pellet mill. Upon wetting, it's still just manure. Perfect Blend is engineered fertilizer. We've got 4 patents. We've been doing it for 22 years, and I send product via intermodal rail, across the country. And I don't think the pelleted manure guys do a lot of business outside of the state.
Okay. All right. So one final question then for you, Justin, that we've been asking each of our panelists is, what's the best way to get in touch with you? And are there any kind of special offers or things that you're putting out there in the marketplace right now?
You bet. Yeah, we got 5,000 tons on sale for those looking for a deal. No, it's kind of true actually. Volume discounts are always there. And the biggest thing is yeah, just reach out to me by phone here at the home office in Idaho, 208-543-4984. Find us on the web, perfect-blend.com. And yeah, there's a lot of different ways to cut the cookie. There's some amazing products out there, and I think the growers are a little bit like deer in the headlights with so many offerings. So I think, if you just need an opinion on if something is going to work for you, let me know. I just turned a guy on to Pacific Grow fish because he needs a foliar nitrogen. So we're not going to try to hog the business, but glad to hear from you guys.
All right. Thanks, Justin. That's definitely helpful. We'll share that contact information. I noticed that in-office home phone that you had coming through right there and not a mobile, but we'll get people in touch with you and thanks for sharing info on the Perfect Blend.
Appreciate it, Heidi.
Yeah, of course. All right, moving on. Next up, we've got Novihum. One second.
Agriculture in general, and farmers in particular, face many obstacles in their day-to-day operations. One of which is maximizing production with less than ideal soil for their growing needs.
What I do over here in Novihum application, I put it from my hand this way all the way to my ditch. I put Novihum and I skip 2 passes right behind me, and I apply another 2 passes toward to the west side. And you guys can see the difference in there right now. 2 days different between the irrigation and the first 2, and also at the south side. That's why it's not germinate all the way through right here.
At Novihum, we take a customized approach with each grower based on the needs of their soil. We are helping growers make less than perfect ground productive and good ground even more productive. We do this by increasing organic matter in the soil. With just a single application of Novihum, you immediately build the soil humus reservoir. The result is healthier soil, higher yields, higher harvest quality, better resource efficiency, and plants with greater resistance to disease and pest pressures. Novihum has all the benefits of compost and manure without any negatives like salts and known pathogens. Most growers we work with have underperforming blocks that just don't match up to the rest of their acreage. But until now, they had limited choices and the challenges that go with traditional organic matter inputs, like high application rates, food safety concerns, variable quality, bad odors, and rapid decomposition in hot climates. So whether it's almonds, zucchini, or anything in between, organic matter is a staple to healthy soil. So if you have ground that's letting you down, contact me, Cord Nunez, through novihum.com. That's novihum.com.
All right, Cord, could we have you join, unmute? First thing I'd like to say is great job on making that video. I know as a late addition, you had to make that overnight. So great job making the video. Where are you joining us from today?
Yeah, I'm joining you from Salinas, California. So appreciate that because it was a little bit trying to put this video together. I saw everybody else's video on there and I'm like, okay, I was just going to record something here. And nobody likes hearing the sound of their own voice, I know. So it's probably, you know, I do appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. So in the video, you touched on the fact that you guys are able to have a positive impact on the soil. How exactly is it that you're able to do that, and could you elaborate on the positive benefits that you're able to see after an application?
Yeah, of course. So the way that we're making soils better is really we've taken a patented process and we've basically make organic matter from lignite. So we put it through a patented process and bind nitrogen to lignite, which is organic matter, millions of years old. And then through that, it's chemically indistinguishable from natural occurring organic matter.
Awesome. In the video, you mentioned, compost. Are you a direct substitute for compost? And if so, what is the ROI that a grower typically sees when they make that switch?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that we're exactly a quick or a substitute for anything. I think we definitely have our place and we can definitely make compost better. In some cases, we can switch out for compost. It really just depends on the soil. We're not replacing the rest of the components that need to go into a healthy soil. It's just one piece of the puzzle.
Awesome. So typically when you're working with a new customer, what are you looking for? What are kind of the signs that you look for that tell you, hey, this is a grower that we should be putting Novihum onto? Right.
Yeah, I would say that really any grower that's dealing with less than 2% organic matter is really our ideal customer. If they have troubled or problem ground, we put together a kind of an overall look at the soil health and how to help them out. And that may include some other products that we offer through our partners that we can actually help benefit and get that soil back up to, the highest production that they can out of that. So it's a multi-pronged approach.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Currently, are there any offers or anything special that you're offering for growers in this time that you're not able to go out to the field?
Yeah, we started our company and we've been around for a while, but we're from Germany and we started the company in 3 different countries. So we've gotten really good at webinars and how to manage and utilize systems a little bit better. So we were offering that to our potential growers, our customers, our current customers, and trying to work through and offer them webinar help. Not just how to log on to a webinar, because everybody here has the ability to log on and figure that out, but how to utilize it to their best possible business and outfit. How do they manage better on a day-to-day operation, and how can we help them do that? We're also offering some special financing through this time, delaying some payments, pushing it out a little bit more. And then we also do more of a cost share basis. So we take soil samples, foliar petiole samples, and take that over time. Our technical managers work with the customer. I know one of the questions was earlier in a startup, how do you, you're usually one and done, right? I've heard the term sail and bail, and that's not what we're about at all. We really work with the customer and take an in-depth approach of what their soil is doing and how to better quantify that over time. So we work with the grower, taking aerial imagery, soil samples, tissue samples, and really kind of report back to them on what's going on in their individual operations.
Awesome, thank you. Who are some of the companies that you're working alongside to get that done, or is that all things that you're doing in-house with the soil sampling, aerial imaging, and all of that?
Yeah, that's a good question. We actually work with series imagery and for our aerial imagery. ALC is doing our soil analysis. And then we work with a couple other companies to help gather, but we also have in-house our technical managers, both in the state of California that are in field, going out to the different ranches and working with the growers so that they know, it's not just, here's our product, best of luck to you. We want to walk them through the whole process. And we're quite interested, even though we have 329 different data sets that we've, compiled, and we have all of our background. It doesn't matter until you get it into the hands of the grower and they can actually see what benefits them from this. There's a lot of different products out there, and I think that it is, somebody said it's a lot like deer in headlights. It really can be, because there's a lot of people out there that are pushing different things that aren't really necessary for maybe their individual needs.
Awesome, thank you. So for a grower that's looking to put Novihum onto their farm, onto their soil, what's the process that they have to go through, and what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, the best way to get in touch with us is our website, novihum.com. You can also send out my contact information. I sent you a one-pager that I think is going out to everybody. And it's very simple. It's during ground prep. We have multiple different products for permanent crops to row crops. Permanent crops, we use a component that can be top dressed and put right in, or lightly incorporated if they're going to do some light mulching. Then we also have products that are best broadcast or banded and incorporated.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for that, Cord. I'm going to kick it back over to Heidi to introduce HarvestPort.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Isa. Thanks, Cord. Great to hear a little bit more about your business, and definitely appreciate you getting all that together at the last minute and having you on board. All right, so now just bringing it back home, we're gonna move on to HarvestPort, in particular around the inputs program and platform, and we'll start off by watching a short clip.
Farmers have historically been reliant upon the consultative services of the agronomists that are employed by the various ag retailers that are supplying them the various inputs that they're utilizing to maximize their production. There's an issue of trust when the very same consultant you're relying upon to advise you on how much of a particular product to procure and apply is also making a commission on that very same product that they're selling.
The relationship between a supplier and a farmer requires a very positive relationship going back and forth. But meanwhile, the supplier is trying to get the best price they can. And so it's very difficult to give good advice to the grower when you're pushing to sort of maximize margin. And so it creates an adversarial relationship often between these two parties. And so HarvestPort can come in. For the supplier, we cut their costs to acquire new business, and we actually cut their costs to serve existing business. And for the grower, we save them time and money. We are neutral. We serve the grower. That's who our client is. We strictly are driving value to the grower. So we can come in as an unbiased advisor, giving advice to the grower and putting the two together. We want to put the future of agriculture back in the hands of farmers and move it away from multinational agrochemical companies. I think when farmers are given broad choice, they will always make the best decision from a stewardship of land perspective, because they want to protect their most valuable asset, and that's the land.
Okay, so I wanted to invite Brian Dawson into the conversation from HarvestPort, our CEO. Hi, Brian. How are you doing today?
I'm well. I hate watching myself on video. Really just feel like, that I could never be an actor. I'd be one of those actors like Christian Bale that would cry every time afterwards or whatever, be like a big diva. So,
Well, I hope you quickly wipe those tears away.
yeah, I'll live. Yeah.
And so where are you coming live from today?
Los Angeles in my home office, which by the way is below our one-story house, and there's 2 small children and 2 dogs running like buffalo upstairs. So forgive any loud noises, but I think we're probably all dealing with the sounds of home in the background these days. So yeah.
Of course. No, glad to have you. I wanted to just dive in and dig in a little bit further for the audience and talk about HarvestPort and the inputs program and the platform, and kind of in your own words, if you could share what really the value is to both sides as a marketplace for growers and suppliers, and the benefits really that the inputs program is driving.
Yeah, so I think philosophically we approach inputs in a different way than many of our peers. There are obviously other ag tech platforms that move inputs, some very sophisticated ones, good people. We all chat amongst ourselves, but I think we actually don't take what I would call the Amazon for ag viewpoint, where, you assume the farmer buys inputs like they buy socks on Amazon, where they want to shop through things. They want the convenience of it to come to a door on a box by FedEx. We took a different approach and said, actually, farmers don't enjoy shopping for these things. They don't enjoy bidding out the products. They don't enjoy sort of haggling often with crop retailers, like you going to a used car lot or something like that. And they don't need the consumer convenience. They actually need a lot of logistics help. Most of the customers we have, they're not getting a box of inputs. They're getting truckloads and pallets and things in 50 different locations at precision timeframes when they have labor staged. And so there's a little bit more involved to service the kind of grower that we service, which tends to be a large, multiple thousand-acre grower, vertically integrated grower, packer, shipper, and we actually have a lot of farmland asset manager clients. But that's kind of our sort of core group, and most of those groups don't need a lot of agronomic services from the retailers as well, because they have either in-house people or independent, and I'll say independent in quotes. There's really no independent agronomists. They're all getting a kickback from somebody. Forgive me, my agronomist friends, but in traditional chemistry, that is, not in organic or regenerative products. Anyway, so we took a different approach. It is a marketplace, but our inputs offering, as you're talking about, is essentially procurement as an enterprise service. So people pay us an ongoing per acre fee, and we literally buy everything for them. All their crop protection, all their fertility, all their amendments, compost, manure, whatever it is they need, we buy. And it gives us a really interesting window into what the grower's doing, because it's not a spot market. I need a particular fungicide. We get to see everything. And it also has helped really integrate our personnel as sort of part of the team, part of their operational DNA, because we are the procurement resource for most of our growers. And in several cases, particularly the people we've been doing this with for a couple of years, we're actually allowed to make managerial decisions, picking X brand over Y brand and things like that, which, and the reasoning is obviously if we can you take 100,000 acres of almonds and guide them all to the same product, you can get people quite a bit more savings than, again, if you're going, this is from Nutrien and this is from Simplot and this is from Wilbur and so on and so forth. So I don't know if that sums it up, kind of how we're a little bit different from other people in inputs, but that's our core business, inputs.
No, I definitely think that's helpful. I think some questions that often come up is, in managing all of that data and those grower needs, and you mentioned that, we're buying everything, so to speak, how is that supported? If you want to touch on sort of the technology that's progressed over, the past couple of years, I think that would be insightful.
Yeah, philosophically, again, our product comes from sort of a different place. So I don't think of us, again, as Amazon for ag. I think of us more like Bloomberg for ag, where we're providing business intelligence around procurement, right? So you can go in and your PCA recs go in the system. We actually do a lot of the upfront work here. We don't like growers to do data entry. This is another thing. It's very hard. Some of you on the call will appreciate this, to get growers to enter in their name even, other than other stuff. And forgive me, the growers on the phone, yes, you guys are a pain in the ass when it comes to getting you to interact with a platform. And we get that. You have better things to do, so we'll do it for you. We will try to enter it. We'll try to remove that barrier. And our product, what it allows you to do is actually play with different input compositions. We have a fair amount of clients who they'll put in their full forecast for the year. And then again, we're just expanding choice. Here's a fungicide by Syngenta that they would normally use. And actually there are 10 alternatives, many of which they didn't even know about. And we came up with a proprietary analytics system that compares active ingredient and the percentage in solution, and also inerts. It's not rocket science, but making the sort of mathematical calculus around density and solution and products, sometimes it's very hard to get a kind of apples to apples price on different products. So we have a lot of features like that just make it easy to compare one thing or another. And what we're using our product more and more for is for people to make decisions when they have to make change. So for example, we have guys that have a particular sustainability metric they're getting from a buyer. So X buyer will pay a premium, or most of the time give me a buying preference if I reduce my nitrogen application, or if I reduce my small molecule pesticide usage, or if, whatever it is, X, Y, Z, and they want to play with things. Actually, a real common one these days is getting off Roundup. How do I roll off glyphosate? Because we think it's going to be banned. We think it's going to be more expensive or restricted. So I want to roll off Roundup, but I can't do it overnight. I can't go from my primary herbicide, $15 an acre to hand weeding for $500 an acre. How do I get there? Can you help me look at sort of a pro forma shift in inputs over time? And so this is the kind of thing that goes into our thinking. And again, we're trying to give growers very actionable economic information so they can plan their season, but really over time, they can plan a much more sort of sustainable, cost-effective information with minimal sort of data entry.
So to follow up on that, if a grower is interested in experiencing the platform and really the experience of it, what's kind of the next step to do that? Is it heavy onboarding? And then on the flip side, if there's a inputs provider, supplier, what are the steps really to engage there?
Yeah, so the nice thing about California is this is a cumbersome thing for most growers, and I tend to think it's cumbersome. I won't get into politics here, but it's cumbersome in general. But the nice thing about California is you have to report all your pesticide use, right? So we track it. So you can come in HarvestPort, and if you have a farming organization, this is particular to California, it's a little trickier. We also have an office in Iowa and operate in the Midwest, but in California, you can put in your registered farm entity, and we immediately know what you've bought for the last 6 years. So your sort of blueprint for your season is populated. Obviously, there's little changes from time over time, and the PCAs, the agronomists, the folks with the boots on the ground are making little tweaks here and there, but all your data is in there, and we've already set up that so you're ready to go. And actually, just for the other ag tech people on the phone, it makes for a great sales tool because we can walk in somebody's office and I'll say, here's what you're buying right now. Here's what we can buy those products for. Exact same products, we can save you 20%. Do you want to do business with us? And it makes for a very, very easy conversation. So it's pretty easy to check out. On the retailer side, we have a separate retailer-facing dashboard. That is really easy, although it's been tough. We work heavily with all the usual suspects in retail. Nutrien's a big supplier, and Simplot and Wilbur and regional guys, Buttonwillow and so on. It was tough to get them to interact with us. I mean, I think just candidly, again, for the sort of educated ag audience that knows ag tech, people thought initially we were trying to, disrupt the retail. Thought we were a little more like Farmers Business Network, and I'm not knocking FBN. I think they have a very innovative group, but we're sort of hostile to the retailer. And so that's taken some time to show actually we bring a lot of value. And in fact, we take this big, we do buying by the crop and the time period. So you do a big buy for almond bloom spray, and often we get a lot of uniformity of buying, as I was saying. And we get our growers to plan way ahead. So we actually reduce quite a bit of inventory risk for our retail partners. They can gain rebates. I don't know if you know how the rebate system works, but they can essentially get more money from Monsanto, Bayer, and Syngenta, BASF, and so on and so forth, because we help kind of get uniform product. And this is all to the grower's advantage because we're passing on the sort of margin points that the retailer is getting to the grower. But one of the real points of pride internally at the company that has really only come this quarter and has taken a long time to get there is our retailers. We have 12 now. We actually bid to, I think, 38 or 39 retailers nationwide, but we have 12 that give us real-time updating of their pricing. So we're integrated with Nutrien and Simplot with a particular corporate resource where it's like kayak.com. You go in and you're like, okay, here's the flights. I can get literally an ongoing comparison of pricing. I know exactly what the prices are at. If they change on a given day, you can see our Slack feed. There's like Simplot's in there, Nutrien's in there, and all these folks are in there updating the prices. And I'm telling you, that took several, again, some of you will appreciate getting them to sort of integrate in our platform was painstaking. But now that those relationships are developed and we've moved millions of dollars in product for these folks, they participate as strategic partners in our platform, and it's to the grower's benefit because we can always give real-time pricing. So that's been an accomplishment that we don't sort of shout from the rooftops, but it's been great to see, actually. So
fantastic. I know the technology has really become much more sophisticated over time, and encourage everybody that's listening to this and beyond, hopefully, to take a peek at that. Isa, I wanted to just pause and see if there's any questions from the audience.
Yeah, so we do have one, Brian, question here from Steve. So if you're driving multiple growers to purchase a particular pesticide or fungicide, you may be driving resistance to particular fungicides and potentially creating a new problem for an industry. Are you and your people making sure that the same MOA or FREC group isn't being overused?
No, we're not. We're not agronomic experts, so we don't even touch that. To clarify, when we drive people, what we do is we show the economic intelligence. So someone says, I want a Syngenta product. And we say, did you know if a bunch of you bought a Dow product or Corteva product or whatever it is, you could save 6%. If all of you went with a Bayer product, you could save 9%. And the grower can make the choice. And what usually happens, of course, is a few of the growers are willing to do that, but some of the growers are not. Right. But we're never saying we are not agronomic experts. I'm an idiot with, etymology, anything like that. I'm like probably the worst fake agronomist on the team. Isa, you're a pretty good one, actually. You're a pretty good fake agronomist. But we do not get in those decisions. We display the economic intelligence because they're not used to seeing that. Oh, if I did move to this product, I could save this. And then sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. And sometimes in our farmland asset managers where they have 6, 7, 8 different ranches, some of the ranches will shift, but some of them won't. And it actually is a nice way to call out internally, because we've heard feedback. Sometimes PCAs will make a call and they'll say, I need my special secret sauce recipe, even though it's more expensive. And then later some CFO is coming back and saying, why did this guy do this? And it sort of calls these things out ahead of time. And one, the PCA can say, here is why I need it. It's clear, and he doesn't get in trouble later. And then on the flip side, if it's a PCA or agronomist who's like taking a packet of money from his brother-in-law or going on all the hunting trips or whatever, it calls out those things too. And so the organization benefits, right? So part of what we do is just transparency within the organization and try to thread the needle in organizational politics and just make sure everybody knows what's going on and it's called out. But yeah, to directly answer your question, no, we have no agronomic expertise. We rely on, third-party agronomists who we interact with all the time. Our grower relations team, who's in Bakersfield, literally spends all day talking to agronomists, PCAs, CCAs, all the time. So we have plenty of them that we deal with.
All right, thank you. I think you touched on it, but from an ROI perspective, really it's the cost savings on the grower side, and while also providing choice, not necessarily forcing a grower to take one product over the other. But ultimately, the goal of the inputs program is to drive some cost savings and be transparent on the grower side. And then you mentioned it too, Brian, here is to lower the cost of kind of customer acquisition and servicing the customer on the retail side. Also, I think just being a platform to introduce and kind of new products as they come to market as well. Do you agree with that?
People honestly call all the time and say, what is a good alternative for X? Unfortunately, they often call me and I have no idea, but we, have the people to refer them to and ask that. But like that does happen a lot, and hence innovation exchange, other stuff here. But yeah.
So one final question we've been asking everybody, best way to get in touch or onboarded onto the Inputs program. And then is there any kind of deal or offer that, that we're doing?
So we are going with a free trial for growers, which essentially allows you to access our platform and see pricing. So it can be a good tool, whether you sign up or not. It's a good way to sort of spot check any pricing you're getting on whatever inputs it is you're getting, fertility, crop protection, etc. We've offered that. We've used free trials strategically before, occasionally on a sort of bespoke basis with very large acreage organizations, but we've now, because of COVID and people are worried about inputs and can I get my supply of packaged goods, et cetera. For the month of April, we're just offering free trial. You can come and check it out and see if you like it. And we think, you will, and you'll like the prices and you'll want to participate. And I think we'll actually probably extend it to, I'm using the date May 15th, and we'll extend it until we start sort of being off lockdown collectively. And I know Los Angeles, where I am, is different than other. They've said May 15th here. Frankly, I think it'll go longer. But, for us, it's sort of putting our money where our mouth is. Come try our platform, and we think you will be willing to pay for the value. So don't get too sort of dogmatic about if you don't run in April, you won't get it. You can call us in May and say, can I get that free trial you mentioned? That's fine. Come check it out. We'd love to help you. And yeah, go to our website. It's pretty self-explanatory. You can email me. It's Brian with an I at HarvestPort. Always happy to talk.
All right. Thanks so much. I know we are kind of moving along here and only have 6 minutes of scheduled time left, but quickly wanted to just ask the group of panelists just a question, just given kind of the current environment and the new normal, as we talked about earlier. I'm curious to hear from each of you just on, where are you seeing sort of like the opportunities or maybe some challenges? I imagine that you've all been in a number of conversations with your customers or prospects, and perhaps there's some different kind of pain points that are top of mind. Obviously, cash management is probably a big one. Supply chain management, logistics concerns, and planning and things like that. But wanted to go kind of around the group and just if you could offer and share sort of what the sort of top, maybe top of mind thing is, whether it's within your own company or you're hearing from your customers as it relates to this period of kind of the COVID period and how you're thinking about supporting the stakeholders in your business. So let's just go ahead. If there's any volunteers, feel free to just unmute and chime in. If not, I'll just kind of call on you, but.
I'll volunteer if you want me to, Heidi.
Sure.
So you don't have to witness Socratic method here, see who you want to call on or not. So, two things that obviously, one thing that happened to us that I think has been interesting is some of this is we encourage our growers to sort of plan ahead and forecast and buy ahead, but typically most of the products, most of the inputs guys buy, they're buying maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks ahead because, you have changes in weather and, all kinds of different things, pest pressure and whatnot. But we actually had a huge percentage of acres, 30% of our acres in the Central Valley in California buy products through July, right? So sign POs, buy ahead. There was all these worries. The Chinese supply chain is delayed a couple, we're not going to get our stuff. It's same thing as consumers with toilet paper, right? You run out and buy all this toilet paper. The reality, of course, is we're not going to use any more toilet paper in my house than we did last year. We just now have more, you know what I mean? Because we're all crazy people when we get locked in our house or whatever. And I think it's the same mentality for farmers. And so they all bought ahead, which actually is great. It's great for us. It's great for our retail partners. It brings an urgency to HarvestPort's value prop. That is great. Now, on the flip side, the negative is we buy, I'm going to sound like Farmers Business Network here for a minute, but we sometimes buy fertilizer by the truckload direct from the manufacturer. So we actually do, in certain products, we don't circumvent the retailers because they know we're doing it, but we will not make a stop at our retailer friends' place. We'll bundle it with crop protection. So we were going to buy a bunch of fertilizer from CF out of Oklahoma, who's one of the few American manufacturers. Like even the other American companies, Coke and ADM, they manufacture elsewhere. And all the Midwest retailers bought so much that we couldn't get the commodity for the UAN 32 and stuff like that to California. There was less of a supply, right? So we actually had some folks that needed commodity fertilizer, and it ended up just ultimately affecting price because we thought we had this price on it, and everybody bought the toilet paper, and then toilet paper is more expensive, and yada yada yada. So it's been those are just two interesting observations, and obviously we're trying to accommodate customers as best as we can with sort of hoarding behaviors by both buyers and suppliers. So
yeah, definitely some urgency obviously in the buying side, and I know HarvestPort in general is just trying to help with that planning and kind of working through how to get growers what they need when they need it. Justin, I know you had some thoughts on this. I was just curious for your business or what you're hearing in the marketplace.
I'm just trying to redo my belly after laughing at the previous commentator's statements. No, it's been really interesting. Our core business is small growers to medium tier growers and small dealers to medium tier dealers, and hands-on and handshake and relational with a short staff, as opposed to the 1,500 employee boots on the ground model by our friendly peers. And it's interesting to see what's happening. I think it's a positive deal. I mean, with the late rains in California, particularly, orders are starting to really flow in the door later than normal. Usually we have February, March orders. So it's going to turn into a logistics train wreck in a minute if we're not careful. But I think when it comes to bigger picture, 45,000 foot, we tend to wax philosophical, right? Us salesmen that watch too much news, and personally, I think we're going to see a return to the farm movement that's really good for all of us as a community in being consumers of food and caring about nutrient dense food and less about sprays and less about big pharma and big ag and Bill and Melinda and the list goes on. And before I get any more political, we're going to have to learn how to barter again. If I was bold enough to say it, I think we're going to have a 35% correction here in the market. And so to the positive, those guys that are in the bank, 2, 3, 4, 5 million, and their cash flow is not there, it's going to be ugly. Now to the positive, I'm seeing a real centralization of sort of fear in the organic space among growers that have converted into organics and can't compete due to dumping and monopolization from the big five. And so there's some real opportunities in order for the innovators to sort of, work together as peer groups to, provide intelligence, wisdom, and a positive sharing of business with those that are focused on some of those things we find dear to us. And so anyways, that's my philosophy. I'm happy to know you innovators and young guys that are got new products. We've got a lot to learn. But I think our growers really need us. I mean, they're asking some really hard questions. And to be honest with you, it's borderline suicidal on a lot of the farms for the people I talk to who, it used to be a $5 a pound market and now it's $1.50 and Turkey and Argentina and Chile and Mexico. And anyhow, if that means anything, chime in, someone else.
Yeah, just for the last few minutes, I know we're over. If Cord or Yuri has any thoughts on this, I'd be curious to hear from you both as well.
Yeah, it's been difficult. My business is a lot of going out to the farm and shaking hands and looking somebody in the eye. So I think that's been the biggest thing that I've had to overcome. And I think Justin's right. I mean, some of the weather patterns are going to help, especially in my business in Central California, getting stuff out later, being able to put stuff on at the end of the year, which is going to be great. But there is a lot of uncertainty out there, and I've got customers in North Carolina and Mississippi, and they just got hit by another disaster. So it seems like they got hit twofold. You know, people are losing crops. It's the same thing. It seems like, you know, this is different and unprecedented, and for sure. And it's something we've never gone through, and it's going to be, but pretty bad. But farmers are resilient. I agree wholeheartedly that we do need to band together a little bit. And, you know, the partners that I have are strategic partners, and the conversations that I'm having with growers right now is, what's your biggest worry right now? What's your biggest issue? What can I help you with? Is there anything out there, right? That's all I'm trying to get to. And it's probably not going to be my product is the first thing that comes to mind for them. So getting them what they need and just trying to help them through, you know, these hard times and difficult times, I think that makes a big difference in everybody's life. You know, it's the human aspect of it. And, that's what we're trying to do here. And, you know, I applaud everybody else for doing the same. It is tough with the communication issue, but I think it's going to spark some creativity and some new ways of doing business for those for those that are a little bit younger generation in the farming industry. I think it'll be good.
Absolutely. Definitely some themes around, you know, banding together and streamlining business. And maybe Yuri, you could comment on, you guys have been experts like bringing your product to market from South Africa and working globally, and any nuggets around that or anything else you want to share would probably be useful.
Yeah, actually, I think I would probably define the time right now as challenging from that perspective, because as everybody already mentioned, we have our own agenda, and then there is the grower agenda. And at that time, it's a complex situation. So actually, we get our product actually directly from Israel, and we're very lucky. Our manufacturer is in full production, nothing stopped. The boats are still sailing and the product getting here. So on that level, we know we kind of like on the lucky end of the deal because we are in full production. We are recognizing the time right now to pretty much improve our service, improve our connectivity to the growers, and like mentioned earlier, build the trust. And it's a great time to do that because, like we said, everybody thinking ahead what tomorrow will hold for us. And I think there is a lot within that group that's sitting here today that, you know, through that platform, that grower actually can analyzing the future and get a better perspective. And between the product, like I said, the NDRIP right now is pretty much waiting for the opportunity, waiting for a grower to start looking into that. How do we improve our irrigation system? How do we save water? How do we save energy? How do we do that? And we do have the time right now, I believe, to do more of that education, more of that explanation with that time when most of us sitting at home and trying to figure out how to survive the day with the kids.
Absolutely. I know there's definitely a lot of moving parts and working from home and all that. But I think one of the common themes, first of all, thank you to each of the panelists for joining the discussion today and for the attendees for jumping on. Definitely one of the common themes that, you know, we hear and we heard today is just about kind of education around these new solutions and connecting to the dots with these growers and or whoever the customer's grower, packer, processor. And really what we're trying to do with the Innovation Hub is to help cut through that noise, bring you vetted solutions in the marketplace, and have one spot with native content where you can find and learn about these solutions, and hopefully do more events like this where we're profiling, you know, specific categories of solutions to the grower. So if you guys enjoyed what you heard today, definitely reach out to us, or if you have thoughts on what you'd like to hear in the future, we want to cover that as well. I know I committed to highlighting some COVID resources. I think one of the things, just in the kind of the theme of the hub being a sort of content aggregator, what we're going to do is, I've seen, you know, great content come out. I'm sure everybody's gotten a ton in their inbox, and, you know, we're going to send in our follow-up communication just quick links to what we think are kind of the most up-to-date and best resources for our specific kind of target audience. So that's our resource share on COVID. I'm not going to belabor that point. And then kind of one final note just around the Innovation Hub, as we alluded to earlier, is we are actually making a move on this and making a move within kind of like the HarvestPort ecosystem, or I should say move out of it. The Innovation Hub is actually going to become its own brand and hosted on kind of a new domain, a new entity. And so you can follow us. This is really early at the farmhub.live on Instagram to follow our launch. And this is where you'll find all of this great content going forward, as well as obviously, you know, a website and digital presence and things. So for those of you that were, you know, able to stay on this call for this event for over an hour and a half, you kind of get a preview into what's to come there, and excited to bring you more. That's all I've got today. Thanks for joining. Anything else from you, Isa?
No, yeah, just thank you everyone for joining, panelists, attendees. Thank you for all the questions. We're really excited for what's coming next, and look forward to talking to you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Be safe out there. Thank you.